Hello, and welcome to the Q&A for September/October 2022. I think today's Q&A is going to be special because, quite honestly, I went in a few hours after it was posted, and I just saw a bunch of really good questions. So I got all the questions within like 3 hours of me posting asking for them. That's usually a pretty good sign. So my apologies in advance if you posted good questions after the fact, because I wouldn't have seen them. But that's okay, we can always get to them next month. And before we get into the questions, are you watching? Did you see the JoJo? Good, because that's the last you're gonna see of it. You got clickbaited. If you seriously think that I'm going to crawl back to YBA or go play the awful combat of AUT, you're out of your mind. So, you're gonna have to deal with Battlefield. Sorry. On the topic of questions, though, we'll kick things off with something I really didn't expect to see. And that's a question from Ang17. He probably doesn't want to be reminded of this, or happen to not see the video, but I trashed on him for something in a Daily Dose of Stupid video, and he still has the courage to come on and ask me questions for my Q&A. And you know what? I have endless respect for that, because if that happened to me, I'd probably crawl in a corner and cry myself to sleep. But regardless, Ang asks, "Hey Eclipse, curious to know, what would your ideal game be? Such as the genre of the game, would it be based off a pre-existing property or something entirely original? Basically, as much detail as you would like into the game concept you'd be comfortable with calling your favorite game if it existed." This is a hard question to answer, and simultaneously a really good question, because at the end of the day, I don't really think that there could be a quote-unquote perfect game for me, especially considering that my current favorite game of all time is not even really a game that I play super often, as strange as that sounds. For those who aren't already aware, my favorite game of all time is Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and that probably comes as a surprise considering how many first-person shooters and such I play. And while I can play first-person shooters for a really long time, it doesn't change the fact that I love Breath of the Wild, and I couldn't really exactly tell you why I liked it so much. I just thought it was a really, really fun game. And the other issue with the whole ideal game or perfect game situation is I'm also not a person to just stick to one game forever. I've played franchises for a long time, sure, especially the Battlefield franchise, but when it comes to specific games, I can't play one thing just eternally. And because of that, even if there was a perfect game, eventually I'd probably get bored of that and move on anyway. I guess if we're looking to actually answer the question though, I suppose currently my favorite game that could be created would probably be a first-person shooter akin to Escape from Tarkov, but the match times weren't 30 years, and the hit detection and AI was actually halfway decent. If that existed, I would have a hell of a time playing it, considering how much fun I already have playing the broken-ass game that is Escape from Tarkov. Moving on, Krish asks, "Hey Eclipse, how do you come up with some of your video thumbnails? The recent ones you've been putting up are fantastic." I don't know about that. Especially the ones with dramatic facial expressions. Well, Krish, I put this up here because honestly, thumbnails and titles are probably the thing I struggle with the most on YouTube, because I oftentimes try to toe the line between straight up not even trying, shameless clickbait and lying, versus being far too honest and then just having a really boring title and thumbnail. That certainly isn't helped by the fact that my graphic design abilities did not exist before YouTube at all. I mean, my old thumbnails were literally just white backgrounds with people or stands cropped out. In terms of how I come up with my video thumbnails, it's just a spur of the moment thing, and they oftentimes don't take less than like 15 or 20 minutes to actually put together. The title and the thumbnail is quite literally the very last thing I do when I'm putting together a video, and oftentimes I won't come up with that title or thumbnail until I've edited and uploaded the video. So really, that's when the panic sets in, especially if it's the day of, where I'm like, oh shit, I need to come up with something or I'm just not gonna be able to post this. As for the dramatic facial expressions, I don't know, some people make fun of me for it, some people think they're good, I can't even tell. All I know is that's what other people do. They do the cringy, oh my god face, and it seems to work, so that's where the inspiration comes from. Literally everybody else. I wish I didn't have to do that or feel the need to do that, but it is what it is. And eventually, I'm gonna have to get better with this whole thumbnail thing, because if I don't, I'm probably never going to be able to move on from Roblox nonsense when people actually care about the quality of the thumbnails. I hope that answers your question, though. That's the best I got. Next question is from a member, Human Frisk. Thank you for that. They say, might by chance we get more Mario Kart or similarly fun games of that general feel as videos? And if so, with your buddies, because you seem to have fun playing with them rather than when you're in videos alone? Well, the Mario Kart videos didn't do super well compared to some of my other things that I thought would do better, which is kind of odd, but also makes a little bit of sense. I mean, at the end of the day, the Mario Kart videos aren't exactly like a master class in editing or anything, but I was under the impression, because it was a more, I guess, kid-friendly game in a sense, that there would be more kids, my channel, that would watch it, and it didn't go nearly as well as I thought it would. So, I don't know. In the respect to playing games with my friends, a lot of that comes down to spur-of-the-moment things, where we're just like, what if we play this? And then it happens. So I can't really guarantee anything in that regard. It probably isn't helped by the fact that my group of friends that I usually play with have a pretty diverse set of games that we all like, and because of that, oftentimes we don't overlap enough, and someone feels alienated and left out or doesn't want to be there. And so that's really the biggest issue that comes to mind. But to answer the question, I don't know about Mario Kart, but more videos that include my friends are something I'm always down for, because I think those tend to make my best videos. Next question is from resident MP18 fraud Exelon, who asks, if a grizzly bear walked up to you, stood up, said your full legal name, what would you do? This question has been on my mind forever now. If that ever happened, I would just have to assume that I was in a match of Tekken and beat the living shit out of them. Would I lose? Oh, absolutely. It's a fucking grizzly bear. But, I mean, I tried my best, right? Next question comes from Gabriel, who asks a color guard question. What is your personal favorite throwing item? Like, do you prefer sabers over rifles, or is it all the same to you? Well, in terms of color guard equipment, I absolutely prefer rifle over everything else, and it's probably because I just have the most experience with that. I enjoy doing saber, but I don't own one, and I've just never really been very good at it, probably due to lack of practice. And in terms of flag, I feel like I should be better with how long I've been doing guard, especially considering that most people end up with flag being their best piece of equipment because they've done it for the longest. But in terms of me, I feel like I was put on rifle very, very early, and because of that, I really haven't done a lot of flag stuff. Last year, actually, I wasn't on the saber line, and so I was a lot more involved with the flag line, and I feel like I generally got quite a bit better on flag. But even still, if we're just asking what's my favorite piece of equipment, it's definitely rifle. Sue asks, I don't know if I got that right, do you plan to enter any tournaments like you did for the 200K special? That was honestly one of my favorite videos, and I really hope to see you do stuff like that again. Doesn't have to be YBA specific, just any tournament sounds fun. The short answer to this question is no. The long answer, well, here we go. The only reason that I entered the tournament for the 200K special was because it seemed more casual than your standard tournament. That is the only reason that I did it. And in terms of it becoming the 200K special, the only reason that it was the 200K special, or even became a video to begin with, is just because of how the whole thing turned out. And I do think that's definitely one of my best videos I've ever done, and that's why I felt comfortable slapping the 200K special on it. That being said, tournaments and super competitive stuff has just never really been my thing. And so I can't see myself actively going out of my way to enter tournaments in anything I play, especially not any Roblox-related nonsense. There's so many factors in Roblox's engine and things dependent on connection and all this kind of nonsense that just makes it not really very fun. And then we look into the aspect of the fact that it's still a fighting game, and I don't know, it's just not for me. I still think that running tournaments and such can be fun just because of the spirit of competition, but you really have to be into that sort of thing to enjoy it. Some of the most fun I had was commentating some really actually good YBA 1v1 matches back when I ran tournaments, but playing in them is a totally different beast. So in short, will I be entering tournaments and doing videos on them? No, I don't think so. Purple Gaming asks, I love your FPS videos. I know you're a Battlefield guy, but will you be playing the COD MW2 beta on your channel? Thanks for the videos. You're welcome, Purple Gaming. And in terms of the MW2 beta, well, it's over, and you haven't seen any videos, so that probably answers the question in of itself. But in case it doesn't, no, there won't be any MW2 beta, nor MW2 content planned on this channel at all. If you've been to any of my streams, which I'll show right here, weekdays 4 p.m. EST, link to the description, then you would know that my relationship with Call of Duty is, well, it's not a good one. I used to enjoy the games quite a bit, and then Call of Duty Modern Warfare came out, and they went into their whole skill-based matchmaking phase and kind of killed the casual Call of Duty that once was, and after that I just didn't have the urge to continue playing, and I stopped buying the games after that one. Every COD game since then has had absolutely no intention of changing their engagement-based matchmaking systems and all this under-the-hood nonsense to make people's lives miserable, so I just stopped supporting it. It's the same kind of deal with why I quit YBA as why I quit Call of Duty. The developers don't care about me as a player, they care about other people. They care about the casuals, and as somebody who's more of a hardcore player when it comes to these games and plays a lot more and is generally better than a fair amount of people, not everyone, but a fair amount, at least above average, I get heavily punished by the systems in place, and if I'm gonna get heavily punished just for playing the game, then I'm just not gonna bother. If I wanted to play ranked mode, I'd queue for ranked mode. So I've been speaking with my wallet, I haven't been buying Call of Duty. Modern Warfare 2 looks really cool, and I really genuinely wish that I could get into it, because it looks like a game that I would enjoy, but I just gotta stick to my guns on this one until I've been proven otherwise by the developers. Tempest asks, hey Eclipse, do you ever think you'll play Elden Ring in a video, or any games like Elden Ring? I feel like watching you play a Souls game would be really entertaining. I also just generally want to see more content out of other games at this point, because I think your other series are really good. Maybe. Big ol' maybe. I have a rocky relationship with the Dark Souls series, and I think streaming it was a pretty big mistake back in the day because it really disenfranchised me with the series because of the Dark Souls community, who I think I will never get along with ever, and I have a very bad impression of them now. You can blame the people on my live streams for Dark Souls 1 and about half of Dark Souls 2 for that. The Souls games just feel like, from what I saw, that you need to do a bunch of homework before you even play them, and then you need to go in and have a general idea of what build you're going to make and how you're going to spec out your character. And if you don't know those things and you just go into the game blind like I did, which is how I like to play my single player games, then you're going to put in the wrong stats and do all these things that are quote-unquote not right, or playing the game wrong is what I would oftentimes get in my chat. And like, if I have to look up a guide on how to build my character before I even play the game, then I draw issues with that. I also have a semi-hot take. I feel that Dark Souls games, that a lot of people like the Dark Souls games because, number one, they're just told to be great games, and if you don't like the difficulty, then you just suck. And that people like to finish the game and then jack themselves off for beating Dark Souls. Like, oh my god, I'm a god gamer, I beat Dark Souls. Which I think is just a really sad thing to see so regularly. But I don't know, maybe that's just me. I beat the first game, got probably halfway through the second, and went, I'm just not enjoying this, and I stopped playing. Wall of Tanks asks, will you be trying out / making a video about the AUT combat update when it comes out? I feel like it could be a step in the right direction for them when it comes to changing the gameplay and maybe make it more fast-paced and at least slightly less of a stun simulator. I feel like I answered this question in a previous Q&A, so sorry if I'm answering this again. I'll definitely be playing the AUT combat rework or whatever whenever it releases, but I really just don't have very high hopes for it. AUT as a game, when it comes to development especially, is just a mess. And it has seemingly a lot of the same problems that YBA has when it comes to things not getting fixed for a really long time. But I have to give them at least a little bit of credit because it's very clear to me that there's a fair amount of people on that team that actually give a shit versus YBA, where they just are cashing in for a paycheck and there's no other way around it. In terms of how I think that the combat update will turn out, well, I can't say for sure because I don't know anything about it, and I don't know if anyone knows anything about it yet. All they've really said is that they're going to make it better. But so far, when they've been trying to make it better, things have just gotten worse. Because really, honestly, I'd almost rather have the M1's V1 take one hit and lose half my HP than the miserable experience of the M1 V3 or whatever, where it's just super delayed and feels terrible. I've said it a fair amount of times, I think, but AUT is one of the few games that seemingly comes out in the genre that felt good to play, even if the gameplay wasn't great, and then they killed that. So I'm hoping that whatever combat rework they're doing doesn't make the game feel even worse. They've also made some polls in the past talking about a bunch of really complex mechanics, and I'm not entirely sure how well the 7-year-olds of Roblox are going to be able to handle actual mechanics, because I do think the game would genuinely be better if it had some real fighting game mechanics in it from traditional fighting games. Meters, bursts, supers, that kind of stuff. The problem is when it comes down to putting that into what's effectively a collect stands, collect skins simulator, well, people might not like that very much. I generally think when it comes to combat, things should be kept relatively simple so that the brain deads can still latch on and have some success, and the better players can have a lot of success, rather than having a high skill floor where the good players can crush new players and new players just flail around and have no idea what they're doing. But I don't know, that's just the way I feel about fighting games in general. Next question comes from Kale, a real OG from back in the Tarkov days, talking about Tarkov. I really enjoyed the Goofy Challenge videos you did for Tarkov long ago. I know you're working on that Taz one right now from the streams, but do you have any future ideas? Well, I don't know. The Taz versus Sherman thing that I've been doing on my streams that will probably be turned into a video about 6 months from now, because that's how long it's gonna take to complete, is taking fucking forever. I think I heavily overestimated the spawn rate on Sturman. 20% is not good, and my RNG is not good. And when we include the times where I get cheesed and instant headshot, or when I get killed by bugs and I have that AI double hit where I just take 2 shots to the chest in 1 frame, it makes it take even longer. So that one's gonna be brutal. But as for future ideas for just goofy Tarkov challenges and weird guns, I'm not sure. I don't have anything on my mind right now. I will say this, anything that I would be doing would be infinitely harder than the stuff I did in the past, based solely on the fact that the recoil update to Tarkov kind of butchered any ability to use a gun that doesn't have good attachments. So if I got a crappy gun that used to be crappy, now it's about double as bad as it was before. Looking back on the clips for like the standard M4 video, and if I tried to do that nowadays, I wouldn't be able to hit the broadside of a barn. So it'll definitely be a lot harder than it was before, but I don't know. We'll see. I like those videos too. I don't think they were necessarily my best, but I think they were pretty solid, so only time will tell. And our last question on the board here is from Deimos Whitesnake, who asks, what will happen to YBA content after they fix all the broken stuff? Tuskak 4 plus Anubis Pluck. Will you return to making challenge videos / YBA content? Also, I love your Subnautica videos and your Tarkov videos. Continue the good work. Thank you, Deimos. As for what's going to happen when they fix the broken shit in YBA, at this point, I'm really not sure, and I think it's going to almost entirely depend on how my channel does when I'm not playing the game. I've become very disillusioned with the people over at YBA and what they've been working on, and Tuskak 4 was not only the straw that broke the camel's back in terms of, like, I can't do this anymore, they don't care, I'm done, but it's like the straw that broke the camel's back and then opened the floodgates, and about like 20,000 pounds of water came flooding through those floodgates all at once, where I was just like, nope, big nope, I'm done. Get me the fuck out of here. And honestly, when they fixed the Tusk Act 4 Infinite combo, people were probably just going to assume that I'll come crawling back to YBA. And you know what? If the channel's in a really bad spot and I feel like I absolutely have to, then maybe I will. But I feel so just disrespected. That's the best way to put it. I feel genuinely disrespected as a player by the developers of the game. And I'm at the point where I feel like they don't deserve me playing the game, which maybe sounds entitled, maybe it sounds like it doesn't matter, because it doesn't. It doesn't matter if I don't play it. It means nothing. They've lost their quote-unquote biggest content creator, but that's not even true. I was the biggest content creator, presumably, that plays that game on the regular, but plenty of other people play YBA that are bigger than me. So I'm not that huge of a loss at the end of the day, and it doesn't matter if I leave. But basically, the point is, until I feel like the player base and myself have some actual respect from the developers, and they can prove to me that they actually care, and they're willing to put in, at the very least, the minimal amount of effort to make sure that the game is even playable to begin with, well, I mean, that's the only thing that's going to bring me back if the channel's still doing okay. It would be much easier from my end and much more profitable to just say, fuck it, I don't care, I'll deal with this, grit my teeth and take it like everyone else seemingly, but I can't do that anymore. So when they fix it, will I come back? Not for a little bit, hopefully, until it's been proven to me without a shadow of a doubt that they care. But the fact that they haven't fixed Tusk Act 4 and Uzu has still remained radio silent shows me that that's not gonna happen. And that is that. That was the last question on here. Like I said, I think there was a lot of good stuff in here, so I probably talked on for a very long time. If your question wasn't in here, I apologize. Hopefully we can get to it next month. But yeah, that's a wrap on today's video. I already talked about my streams. They're in the description. Weekdays, 4 p.m. EST. And I suppose that's all. So if you enjoyed the video, you can leave a like, subscribe. If you didn't, don't. And with all that being said, have a wonderful day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you guys next time.